So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's exciting to be here, and it's exciting to have you here with us. I'm Joanne Lee, and this is Margit Bantowski, and we're both teachers with Trillium Awakening. So we are excited to explore the topic of consciousness tonight, and it's a big topic and actually surprisingly hard to talk about. So we're going to hang some words and concepts on it and see how it goes. So I'm going to give you just a kind of a quick overview of what we'll do here tonight. I'm going to cover just a tiny bit of history of Trillium Awakening, the organization. And then Margit is going to talk about what is consciousness. Okay, is that better? So Margit is going to address the topic, what is consciousness? And I may throw in hang some words here and there on it. And then there'll be an actual experiential piece where you can begin to play with this concept of consciousness yourself. And then Margit is going to take us through a little bit more of what consciousness is not. And then we're going to have a question and answer. So I would ask you to, as questions come up during our talk, kind of tuck them away, and then towards the end we'll leave 10 or 15 minutes at least for Q&A. So I should look down. Down is an aspect of this work. So Trillium Awakening. Trillium Awakening is this juicy combination of offerings, events, coaches, and teachers that can actually help catalyze your awakening. And it turns out that can happen pretty quickly for some people in a matter of, I would say months, although I've heard stories of even shorter periods of time, or some number of years. But it really is quite an effective catalyst. And this is a path for ordinary people that are interested in awakening into their wholeness, into their deepest sense of well-being, into transformed relationships, and really into expressing their unique potential as humans, their fullest potential as humans. So the history started about 25 years ago with a man named Samuel Bonder. He's the founder of this work. He had been a student of Adida, another spiritual teacher, for many years, but had not gotten to the point where he himself had awakened. So he left that guru, that teacher, and pretty quickly, subsequently awakened. So people began to gather around him. Teachers came into the work, and now, 25 years later, there are about 45 teachers of this work around the world, many in the United States, but other places too. So it's grown into really quite an amazing organization. We, as teachers, offer sittings, we offer workshops, private sessions. There are tremendous resources online. There are two websites in particular that I'll mention, and I'll mention them again later. So the local for Olympia is www.trilliumolympia.org, and the international website is www.trilliumawakening.org. And you can find all of the teachers at the international website with their bios and articles and pieces that they've written. You can find videos. You can find just a tremendous amount of resources. So I encourage you to take a look at those. So for those of you that don't know, the trillium is a native flower here in Washington, lots of other places around the states and the world. And as you can see, it has 3 petals. And so that represents, metaphorically, the 3 aspects of this work. And it turns out trilliums are blooming as we speak. So anyone who's walking in the woods these days is enjoying that. So the 3 petals are consciousness, embodiment, and mutuality. So tonight we are going to focus on consciousness, and it may be a more familiar expression of awakening if you have spent any time in sort of the spiritual teachings or readings or realms. In another month, the third Monday of May, which is the 15th, we're going to talk about embodiment back here on the living stage. And then in June 19th, the third Monday, we will talk about mutuality. So I'm hoping that you can come back and visit us for those events too. So we'll do the Q&A at the end. So I'm going to turn it over to Margit to talk about what is consciousness.
Okay. So, consciousness. Boy, that's loud. One way to talk about consciousness is awareness. The aspect of the self that is aware of experience, that's noticing your experience right now, is conscious of experience. So you're aware of my voice. My voice is an object to you, and you, the subject, are aware of the object, my voice. So the question, if we are inquiring about consciousness, the question is, what is it inside you that's aware of experience? So the ultimate subjectivity, you take your I-ness and follow it as far back as you can, and that is awareness, consciousness, that which notices all experience. And all of us have a sense of that. So if you think about, wow, it's 2017, and how did I get to be here? It all happened so fast. So all the life changes from childhood to now happened, but yet there's this very constant, steady, non-moving sense of self that's been with you the whole time. That's a way to kind of sense into the non-moving aspect of that part of you that's been aware of every moment of your life. Another way that I like to play with it is when you wake up in the morning, the difference between being asleep, not dreaming, because some part of your awareness is aware that you're dreaming, but going from unawareness to awareness. Like when you wake up in the morning, you're aware, right? How do you know you're aware? So this being able to sense your awareness, that's part of what we're talking about in consciousness. So in Trillium Awakening, one way we like to express this is that this is ordinary. It's blue-collar consciousness. It's what is with us all day, every day. It's really, an ordinary dimension of being. Another analogy you may have heard of is like being in a movie theater. So when we're in a movie theater, it's kind of dark and all the attention is going on into the movie. So sucked into the movie, all the awareness is in the movie. And that's pretty commonly how we are in our lives. Our awareness tends to be collapsed into the immediate experience. But something shifts when you realize, oh, I'm actually in a movie theater. I'm here. I'm watching. There's something watching the whole thing. The movie isn't my life completely. There's something beyond it. So this is part of what we call awakening to consciousness, being aware that something bigger than the collapsed me is experiencing everything. And what is that? What is that part of ourself that is experiencing everything? And Joanne will give us a wonderful exploration of that together in just a moment. And a couple other notes just to suggest that awakening to consciousness is not so much something you do. It's not so much an efforting, I'm going to awaken to it. It's more like the recognition that we are breathing air. We take it so much for granted all day long. don't really realize it, but at some point you might realize, oh, I'm actually breathing air, and it's around me all the time, 24/7. So recognizing consciousness is sort of like that. It's just bringing attention to something that's been there all along. It's becoming aware of something that's already true. It already is there. And ultimately, one way to look at awakening is that it's a shift in identity. So what is identity? Is how you answer the question, I am. So I am a body-mind is one way. I am this. But when we shift to recognizing that ultimate subjective sense, not sense of self, but the objective, the ultimate part that's watching everything, then the sentence is a little bit different. Then you can eventually say, I am that which observes everything, sees everything, experiences everything. So instead of I am a body-mind having experiences, I am consciousness experiencing a body-mind and everything else. So that's a shift in identity that is possible and potentially helpful. How was that?
That was great. I love the analogies.
Yeah.
So for some people, there can be a sudden flash forward and recognition of consciousness, but for others, there can be just this sort of oozing into, or this gradual incremental shift. So it works both ways. You can't do it wrong. I guess that's the message. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to play with this a little bit. So this is an exercise that is very simple and yet could be profound. You know, all of this is both simple and profound. Some of the paradoxical nature of the work that we do. So sit comfortably as you can on the bleachers there. And just look around you for a moment and become aware of all that's in your vision or your awareness. Okay, just really notice the detail. Just see as vividly as possible what's here. And then go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep breath. As you inhale, just take in that awareness that you just experienced. And then as you exhale, ask yourself, what is aware? What is aware? And where is it? So with your eyes closed, now become aware of what you hear. Listen to the sounds or silence around you. And then as you take your next breath, as you exhale, ask yourself again, what is aware? What is aware? And where is it? Still with your eyes closed, imagine that once again, you are now going to draw a white circle with chalk on a blackboard. A white circle with chalk on a blackboard. Look at that circle. Be aware of it. And then take a deep breath, and as you exhale, ask yourself, what is aware? What is aware? Go ahead and let the circle fade away, and breathing rhythmically in and out. Stay with the awareness of yourself as the one who is aware. Really experience being yourself. Take some time to do this. Try to get as clear a sense as possible for what it's like to be yourself, to be this awareness. Try to become aware of the stability of it, its permanency. Try to experience it as a stable state of consciousness that is always reliably there. While all else changes, it remains. It is available always as a source of stability and of clear perception in the midst of change. So with this awareness of being your unchanging self now, turn your attention to your body. Notice your body. Your body changes. The sensations of your body are different now than they were a few moments ago. And they'll be different again a few moments from now. Your body itself is different now than it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And it keeps changing as we age. But yourself does not change. Now focus once again on the awareness of being yourself, the one who is aware. And as that unchanging self, become aware of your feelings. Notice your feelings. Your feelings are also changing all the time. Even the depth with which you feel changes. But yourself does not change. Focus again on being yourself, the one who is aware. And as that unchanging self, become aware of your mind. Notice your thoughts, how rapidly they change. They may jump from one idea to another. As you grow, you use different ways of thinking. But yourself, your true nature, does not change. Focus once again on being yourself. Then become aware of your body, your feelings, and your mind. Be aware that you have these three aspects. They are yours. They are your valuable means of expression in the world. And you have the capacity to direct and regulate them at will. But they are not the essence of you. You are the self, the one who is aware. So the core of this exercise is an experience which is very simple, but it may be elusive at first for some people and transient for others. It's typical for some personality types to achieve it easily and for others to find it more difficult. So it's good to keep in mind that ease in assuming the attitude of observer or in achieving self-identification is not necessarily in itself a mark of advanced development or character, nor is difficulty an indication that one is lagging behind. If you can do it right away, fine. And if you can't, keep practicing this noble route which many have walked toward the experience of self. So in your own time, take another deep breath and come back to this room. We would love to hear some experiences, how that was, just a few brief words maybe, or a sentence or two, or we have a mic right here. How was that for folks? Please.
Hello. Very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
Calm.
Nice.
Yeah. It's quiet.
Still in it.
Don't want to come back, huh?
But I can be here and still be in it.
Yes, so you can be there and still be in it. Yes.
I have you here for 2 nights for
Anyone else? So, Trillium Awakening is not a path with a lot of practices, and sometimes I like to talk about the feminine side and the masculine side. And so the feminine side is that receptivity to grace, the receptivity to these kinds of experiences happening for us. It's very, it's very natural. They're evolutionary. The masculine side is maybe those kinds of things that might increase the likelihood of these experiences. So things like meditation, being out in nature, singing, shamanic journeying, things that probably many of you are already doing. Breath work, entheogens. In our work, in Trillium Awakening in particular, the who am I, or what is aware, what is noticing, that inquiry, sittings that we hold regularly, workshops, sessions with teachers, being in the transmission of this work. So all of those can also add to the likelihood. They can increase our luck in having these kinds of experiences. So this is a domain that can be quite, we can have some adventures and explorations, but it's also easy to maybe mistake something for something else. And so Margit's going to talk a little bit about what consciousness is not, or some of the things we might mistake for a stabilized sense of consciousness. I can just turn it off.
I hope we can edit the video a little bit. So some ways that people can perceive consciousness is it's not so much that you sense consciousness, but it's more like intuit it as a limitless expansiveness, a sense of spaciousness. Some people experience or intuit it as silence or deep stillness. For some, it's a sense of void, the ultimate void, or emptiness or nothingness. For some, it's intuited as radiant fullness, or a divine light that transcends perception, or even penetrating clarity. So what the flavor is for you will be different than the flavor it is for someone else. So I just invite you to allow for your own particular color or shade of your intuition of this consciousness. And just because it may not be quote unquote flashy doesn't mean it's not valid. So for some people, the recognition of consciousness can be just really big and profound and reorienting. And for others, it's pretty ordinary. It's just recognizing, oh, there it is. Regardless of how you perceive it, it's something that we all perceive or experience every day. And it can be so ordinary that we don't even notice it. So part of the invitation is just spending a little time noticing it, looking for it. What is it that's aware? Where is the awareness itself? Does it have any edges? What consciousness is not is a temporary state of union or expansion or infinite freedom. So this is something that can be helpful, like a state, by definition, comes and goes. It arises and fades away. Consciousness, on the other hand, doesn't change. It's always there. It's a constant. Consciousness is that which observes all the states that are coming and going, even if those states are magnificent and amazing. Something is noticing it's magnificent and amazing. So it's that which is behind all of the display of states that come and go. And consciousness is not the experience of subtle energies or feelings. So upon realizing consciousness, there might be a sense of joy and bliss. But the joy and bliss is not consciousness itself. So after a while, joy and bliss and peacefulness will fade as a state, and discomfort and contraction might emerge inevitably, eventually, which doesn't have any bearing on the fact that consciousness is watching the whole show. Consciousness is indifferent. It is not a positive quality itself. It watches the positive qualities and the negative ones. It's like this big embrace that allows all of it to come through. So even though after recognizing and identifying as consciousness, there might be more serenity, it doesn't change the fact that life has limits. There's a rub to being here. And infinite consciousness is a great resource. But if we're attached to the idea of being forever free, feeling like we're always going to be in freedom, then that can be a path that leads to spiritual escapism, because we're grasping onto that experience, I've got to be free all the time. So in the Trillium work, we invite what's called whole being awakening. So it includes this infinite, unbounded dimension of self, as well as the limitations of being in this material world. Limits along with limitlessness. So that's what we invite, is the whole enchilada. So our next talk in May will really explore what is meant by embodiment. How does consciousness and matter come together? How does that come together? If we're not excluding any dimension of our experience, how does that come together? How do we live that? How do we inhabit the whole enchilada?
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I'll turn mine off.
Yeah, the notion of embodiment, I'm hearing it everywhere. You know, it's like it's being used a lot, and I think it's sort of a time when our species is ready for that. This notion of bringing consciousness down into this realm. And then mutuality in June is that third petal that is also, I'm hearing that everywhere, this notion of relatedness, and that we're awakening together, and that everything that we do and everything that we are and be has an impact on everything and everyone else. So it's a really beautiful combination. So we're really nearing the end. We have a couple of minutes and would love to hear questions, if there are any questions that came up tonight. And then we'll offer some resources and close with a quote. So questions about consciousness or anything else that we talked about tonight? Or comments. I guess it doesn't have to be questions.
Very beautiful presentation experience of us. And the word mutuality has caught my attention as to what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard the other words before, but this is a new one.
Ah.
He's told me a little bit about, he's brought the word to my attention first through the group. And so I'm finding sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, mutuality is, so it's interesting. I find that a lot of people are particularly caught by one of the three. You know, it's either consciousness that draws people, or embodiment, it gets them, or mutuality. And then that can change, of course, in the course of your sort of adventuring in these arenas. But, yeah. Yeah, so I hope you can come back in June. And meanwhile, there's lots to explore. So.
Can I add a little bit?
Yes, please.
So one way that I like to understand and explain the trillium whole enchilada awakening is that there's a recognition of the infinite and finite. So today we kind of explored the infinite dimension, that which is aware, it's unbounded, non-locatable, and recognizing that we're both, this fleshy thing and this unbounded dimension of being. And what happens in the embodiment, the whole embodiment, we land in our bodies, but also land non-separate from everything. So it's an intersection of two paradoxes. So one paradox is I'm finite and I'm infinite. That's the vertical. And then there's a horizontal paradox, which is I appear to be separate, but I'm also you. I am everything. The whole universe is in me. I am the whole universe. And yet, I'm distinct. So that intersection of those two paradoxes is what we mean. So mutuality is this dimension of I'm separate and yet I'm you. How do I relate to you as me and also as a total mystery? And through our work together, we illuminate where we are contracted. And the process of mutuality brings unconsciousness to consciousness. We integrate, and then there's more room to relax in the totality of who and what we are and relate really openly and deeply with one another. I hope that's helpful. Yeah. Do you want to add to
Beautiful. No. No, I love that. That's great.
that? Yeah.
Yes, how do I relate to you?
As a
Infinite.
both, as both.
It's both, right.
I already know the other.
Yeah.
Is that infinite part that's not
Yeah.
practiced
Yeah.
And
knowledge.
And the two together. I mean, it's the simultaneity that also is so powerful in this work. So it's not a matter of either or. It's a matter of both at the same time, which is very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
So other questions or comments? Thanks for that.
Comment, just in my study and learning so far, mutuality also seems to be a respect, allowance, and the green-lighting that's talked about, which really is absent from other perspectives. That total acceptance, that allowance, that respect, that is so important in communication, spaciousness. From what I've learned in studies so far, that seems to be a big part of mutuality as well.
Yes. Yeah, so this, I'm just going to repeat it for the benefit of the recording, this notion of respect and allowance of the other. So we call it green lighting in Trillium Awakening, and it is accepting everything that's happening here and allowing, at the same time accepting what's happening here and allowing. So this very deep respect. And, you know, Margit used the word mystery. It's also the recognition that the other is a sealed mystery. Perpetually, forever, sealed mystery. And I think we are ourselves too. I mean, it's not like we're not, but to remember that about the other, I think, because so often in our culture, you know, we want to understand somebody and take them apart and fix them, and everyone is perfect as they are.
By this wing over here, and then you're going to get on the elevator and go up on the floor. And then you're right there.
It doesn't mean that there aren't boundaries. There's, you know, healthy boundaries are an appropriate thing. The deep respect means I honor that your experience is really true for you. There's an intelligence to your experience, a logic to your experience. And I may need to say, I'm pretty raw right now and I need to take a break and I can't talk right now, but I'll come back. So it's not, it's surrender to the journey, but honoring our limits and our needs at the same time, and the other person as best we're able to respect their limits and needs. So It's messy.
Often. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said it was a group work,
Uh-huh.
so that we could all just experience it where we are, just let it that connection. Doing it in understanding exactly that conscious and unconscious. So the duality of the two, is that correct? And then being there, because I was very peaceful when we did the, and be aware. Then when I came out, it was missing. So it was that. It was, can't we not go in front of us? And so I just lost it. And get it back.
And you can, because it's always available.
But I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
I still was feeling aware and observing how irritated I was by the thing. Oh, couldn't we just try to work this way? Solving problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be quite a practice to anchor into consciousness and then open the eyes, because our attention tends to collapse into what we see. It's like that movie theater. So it actually can be quite a practice to bring awareness and make it as wide, like a camera lens, and just make it as wide as possible so that there's room for the people, there's room for the noise, there's room for the irritation. Everything inside and outside has room. So if I'm collapsed into my frustration, then there's not awareness that's aware that it's aware, right? Yeah, so the practice of noticing the whole space, even with eyes open, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It happens to me all the time.
I feel like this is a perfect arena because I can go back and forth. I can, of course, when I was close to her, nothing else was going on. And I can still sit here with my eyes open and listen to you, and not much else is going on. Or I can focus on what's going on for a minute and go, I don't want to stop here. I can go here. So it's kind of I'm doing an instant practice back and forth, or noticing the calm place that doesn't really care what's going on. It doesn't swing. So I think this is perfect.
Yeah, it's good practice.
A busy hotel lobby.
Let's do
Practice
consciousness. Advanced consciousness practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually what life is.
That's right.
It's exactly what life is.
It's a great place to practice, because even in these moments you feel there's a part of you that feels compelled to walk over to these people and say, would you have a little respect and move down a little bit? But on the other hand, in mutuality, we say, well, respect what they're doing. And they're doing what they're doing. And I don't have to be affected by what's going on there. I'm here in this moment. So it's a great practice for me.
Yeah, and I might be irritated. That's fine. That's room. There's room for that. Doesn't affect consciousness at all.
And of course, the beautiful thing is that awareness is registering it all. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about, is that awareness is registering it all.
And we can practice choosing where we put our awareness. And this is a perfect arena for that. So we have a choice all the time. We forget that we can practice, we can focus our awareness where we want.
Yeah, I like to say that our awareness is our most powerful muscle.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Superpower.
But it takes
Yeah.
practice. You gotta lift the weights.
Yeah, watch TV and then, yeah, this is the gym. This is definitely the gym. We're in 24-hour gym, for example.
I think that's our segue.
That's our segue. So you want to?
That's our segue. So again, I would invite you to visit our website. Locally, it's www.trilliumolympia.org. And then if you're elsewhere, or even if you're here, I invite you to visit the international website, www.trilliumawakening.org. We have a bunch of upcoming events. I noted some of them, and I may likely forget something, so you jump in too. You're doing a virtual sitting this week? Maybe. Okay.
We have 2 people not on the mailing list.
Yes. There's a mailing list back there, and to get on the mailing list, that will just tap you into whatever's happening in the community. So there's at least one in-person sitting every month, Margit or I, and we're each doing some virtual sittings, so people from other places that don't have community, Trillium community, can participate. But of course, local folks are welcome too. The 30th of this month, Margit and I are going to be doing an in-person sitting in Seattle, and we certainly welcome anyone who wants to join us. It's a lovely venue in West Seattle with the view of the water, so it's, yeah, just that alone is an enticement.
What is it, a sitting?
A sitting, yeah. So we're going to collaborate on that. The 5th and 6th of May, I'll be down in Portland. The 5th in the evening doing a sitting, the 6th doing an all-day workshop. And then Margit and I are going to be doing a sitting and workshop in May at the Evergreen State College. So we'll have a Friday night sitting on the 12th, and then the workshop is actually going to be on Sunday the 14th, so Mother's Day. And the topic is the Divine Feminine. Yeah, thank you. Should be really very exciting. Anything else that...
Yeah, we have David Gravel, our sitting coordinator, here today, and he arranges to have sittings from outside teachers Skyped in. So on the first Saturday of May, May 5th, we have 2 teachers from Boulder, Colorado, who will be Skyped into an in-person sitting. Like, we'll meet as a group with a screen, and Max and Tatini will be there. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, so I'll close with a quote by an Indian philosopher, Nisargadatta, and we have this amazing spiritual tradition that comes out of the East that is thousands of years old. And so some of our teachers tap deeply into that, others not. It's not required. But I do find that somehow they've really got that language thing down. So this is his quote. Love tells me that I am everything. Wisdom tells me that I am nothing. And between these 2 banks flows the river of my life. So thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.